Good morning. It's great to be at Lucia Mar. There are some of you that are standing, and I've noticed that there are a number of seats available down front. It may be telling that Superintendent Hogaboom doesn't have anybody sitting next to him. There's a whole row available there if you would like to take a chance and have a seat. My name is Raynee Daley. I am brand new to the district, but I've been in education for well over 25 years. I came from the Central Valley, where I served in a high school district for most of those years as a teacher, counselor, site administrator, program administrator, professional developer, assistant superintendent of human resources, and most recently the chief business official. And I loved it there. And it was very difficult to leave a place that, just as you all have expressed already this morning, was family. But I found something very interesting when I began to talk to Superintendent Hogaboom and the people involved with Lucia Mar. And that is that you believe, by your actions, just as I believe, that the teacher in the classroom is the single most important influence on student learning. And I have a passion. For student learning. And that passion is still, when I teach my administrative credential program students at the graduate level, I go home and I think, how could I have presented that better to make sure that every student in my classroom got it? And I see across our nation a lot of pressure on educators to make sure kids get it. And I found at Lucia Mar that you have committed to entering into a program that will put yourselves at a high level of accountability to make sure that instructional strategies are met, students are engaged, and we all know learning will happen. And I just couldn't resist the opportunity to be a part of that. So thank you for having that courage, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and serve with you. I'm going to give you the budget, a brief budget update. It's always the bad news, and it's sort of an uncomfortable thing to do at times, but really it's not bad news because you've done good planning, and I'm now a part of that good planning at Lucia Mar. But as I've come, I've noticed these highly innovative programs that are on the screen: TAP, 21st Century Skills, the plans for a new tech high school. I talked to Juan early on about the IB at Grover Beach Elementary, and I think that's phenomenal that that level of education is coming into our district at an elementary school. And then our career pathways that Jim Souza is working on. I'm very excited about each one of those things. And obviously, each one of those require resources. So when we think about the budget, there are some budget assumptions that we base the budget on. And on the screen now, you see those assumptions. Our ADA, the assumptions for step and column, state and federal money revenues, and we're always looking at all those things. And you've heard a lot in the news about flat funding. There are no miracles as we look at this budget. There wasn't a miracle in our assumptions, and there's not a miracle in our funding model. Because this funding model was predicated on $4 million in increased revenue that really people in Sacramento didn't know where that money was going to come from, but that's included in the budget. And they also included some triggers that will happen in the event that those monies don't come through. And we now know, as we look at the people that are taking charge and looking at the revenues as they come in, that we're probably going to fall short of that $4 billion coming in. And so we have to be prepared for the triggers that you now see. There's a trigger less than $1 billion short. There's nothing that's going to happen, which makes zero sense at all. If you think about $1 billion, nothing needs to happen. I don't know how they think, but probably they're just going to roll that forward to next year's problem. If it's between $1 and $2 billion short, there will be some cuts, but they probably really won't affect Lucia Mar. And if it's greater than $2 billion, we'll see on a sliding scale up to 4% reduction in our revenue limit, and cuts to transportation that would affect both regular ed transportation and special ed. So what does that mean? You hear all those numbers and you think, whoa, what does that mean? For our district, it would look like about $260 per ADA reduction in our revenue limit. That's $2.6 million. Additionally, if that transportation reduction were to come through, that would be another $588,000 plus. So we're looking at a total of a potential reduction mid-year of $3.1 million. If you look at our total revenues, this was the chart that we used at budget adoption time, and you can see where the sources of our revenue come. But you also have to consider now that there would be a potential loss in that revenue limit piece of the pie, which is our largest piece of that $3.1 million, if the trigger were to be pulled. Our total expenditures are just over $80 million, and you see how that's divided out on this chart. The good news is that we've prepared for these mid-year cuts. And you can see in our ending fund balance, there are components that we've designated out so we can see exactly where the dollars are. And two of those components are those trigger cuts that I just referred to. So the thing I want you to remember as I talk to you about budget is that, yeah, it's a bad budget year in Sacramento. Yes, that bad budget year is probably going to affect us, but we've planned for it. And we can expect to be able to go through this year with no mid-year cuts and have the program that we've committed to. How are we going to do that and how are we going to look forward? Let me talk to you a little bit about that. I'm going to recommend that we do a conservative kind of spending plan as we move forward. I don't know what that looks like yet, quite honestly, because I haven't had time to go through and do an analysis of all the different kinds of expenditures that we have. But I can tell you this, we will look. And I can also promise you this, that we'll look together. The board has already asked that we have a very transparent budget planning process, and that's what I intend to deliver. Additionally, I'm very thankful that the CMR has several foundations that are supportive of our educational system. And we'll be working with those foundations to try to stretch the dollars to meet the needs of our students. What I have found at the CMR is an incredible, incredible district. A professional staff committed to performing even with high stakes accountability, innovative vision, dealing with reduced funding, dealing with layoffs, and dealing with increasing student needs. But you know, as we look forward, amidst all the uncertainty in our world, uncertainty in our budget, and in California schools, about this time of year, a miracle begins to take shape. Despite layoffs, shortfalls, tiring of doing less with more, delays in clearances, poor communication, schedule changes, leadership changes, a remarkable thing happens the first day of school. Parents, school site staff, district office, and especially our students will begin the 2011-2012 school year with a renewed sense of hope and confidence in each of us, classified, certificated, administrative, each of us to fulfill our promise to them. I don't know about you, but I get really excited this time of year. I can't wait for it to start. I want to run to Target and buy a new binder just for the heck of it. I want you to know that it's our intent to support with our resources all that we've committed to and to work together, to work with you to stretch those resources to best serve our kids. Have a great opening and a great year, and let's change the world together. It's now my privilege to introduce our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, a fantastic planner and educator, Andy Stinson.